Hey guys, welcome back to an Intentional Queen podcast with your girl, Janine. I'm so happy to have you guys back with me. We're wrapping up 2020, so I'm so excited for that. It's been a long year. It's been a long year for a lot of people. We so sick of COVID out here. We're just tired of it. So we're ready for 2021. With me being a healthcare worker, some of my friends are listening, and shout out to them who's gotten the COVID vaccine. So this has definitely been a year for a lot of people, as I said before. So Intentional Queens, we're going to call today Hold Your Peace, the 2020 wrap up. So I want to welcome you guys to the Intentional Queen movement with your host Janine. For everybody who doesn't know me, but for everybody else, thank you for coming back. We appreciate you, all my kings and queens. So people asked about, Janine, how can I subscribe if I'm not doing it through Spotify or Amazon or through Apple? So work with me. I got the website kind of up and running, at least to get you LinkedIn. I'm working on setting up an email subscription, like a newsletter or something, just to keep the people who aren't subscribed to any particular app so they can stay engaged in the movement. If that's something that you're interested in and you want to stay engaged outside of just going through those apps, look out for it. It's coming soon. Shoot me your email. You can send it through my email at intentionalqueenjourney@gmail.com. You can also go to the website, which you already know, intentionalqueenjourney.libsyn.com, or go to intentionalqueenjourney.com. It'll link you on over. On there, you'll see an about page. You click up on the link. It'll say, do you want to contact me? You could do it through there. I'm also on Instagram. Thank you for all my followers who have come through that way too. Shoot me your email. Let's stay engaged. That way I can just keep everybody in the loop so nobody feels left out, because that's what it's about. Making everybody be able to continue to level themselves up. I thank everybody for the reviews, the feedback. It's been great. Happy holidays. Can you believe we are getting ready to do Christmas and New Year's, and 2020 came in like a lion, but I'm praying for a lot of people that it's going to leave like a lamb, because for me it's leaving like a lamb, and I'm so excited about that. So let's recap from 2020 about me starting this podcast. We talked about being humble, being meekness during your trials, because that's pretty much what the word meekness means. Being vulnerable, being a better you, being better, not bitter, because I always talk about Lot's wife. Don't be salty out there in the streets. Moving forward into your vision, your purpose, changing your mindset, as we did the last episode, as an intentional queen think of. So we're trying to move into 2021. People ask me, Jenny, where are you really going with the podcast? So I had to really pray about that, because this podcast is stepping out of my comfort zone, as I've already shared. It's me being vulnerable, and I had to kind of figure out where my direction is going. But people said, well, you're kind of doing some sad stuff and some emotional stuff in the beginning. Like, when are we going to do some other things? So let me clear some of that up. As I said in the past on a couple episodes, storms come, storms go. But when you really start to find out more about yourself, sometimes you got to go find yourself in the wilderness. And so for me, when I was in the wilderness, okay, and when I say that is when God humbled me up into a Power Ranger, okay, and the crushing occurred, that's when I had Naomi's come out and get me from the wilderness, and God brought me on in. So now I had to start from that point in the podcast, because I'm reaching out to those roofs out there that need this encouragement, so I can bring them along on the intentional queen movement journey as well. But I got to go get them out there in the wilderness and tell them to come on in, and tell them they're not by themselves. They are in that beginning phase of the butterfly where you just a seed, right? They get ready to get crushed up. They feel like they're alone. They feel like they're not enough. I got to go get them, bring them into the movement. So now that I feel like I'm starting to gather them in, because some women have already reached out and told me that they didn't even want to wake up in the morning. They didn't even want to feed their children. They were crying. They were encouraged by just hearing my voice and knowing that they weren't alone. So for me, I feel blessed that, you know what, baby girl, I'm glad I'm able to help bring you on the movement. So if that means right now we got to kind of stick in that engagement and get those women to bring them along, that's what I'm going to do. But I feel like moving into 2021, now we're moving through different phases of the butterfly, or the Benner's theory, like I said, that novice to expert nurse. We moving through phases, but you got to catch and capture everybody in their phase, because not everybody is at the end. You got to catch them at the beginning, and people see a lot of my ending or my middle, but they don't know my beginning. So therefore, I'm trying to give you front row seat of what happened back when I was in the wilderness, and bringing myself forward, so that way we can bring everybody through, because like we said, we're trying to level each other up. So for those queens that's just joining the party, make sure you go back, check out some of those beginning episodes, and hopefully they can bless you so you can go ahead and continue your journey to restoration. So as we now did that quick little recap of my previous episodes and the mission of the podcast, let's talk about the question of the day. The question of the day I'm going to talk about is, are you intentionally walking the path towards peace? Like genuinely, are you walking the path of peace in every area of your life? That's huge because you need to make sure that you're walking that path of peace. It's nothing like peace. The definition of peace, because I always like to do a literature review, is it's harmony, it's calmness, it's being restful. This episode is hold your peace. It means you do not speak or say, even if you want to. You stand still. What does that mean, to stand still? I'm such a busy superwoman. Like I said, I'm trying to get my cape a little bit better and not do all those things. I've actually cut a lot more things out of my life and included more self-care into there, because you can't be good to others if you're not good to yourself. So standing still can sometimes be hard because you feel like when you're standing still that you're not being productive, but that's a false seed in your head. So just know that sometimes when you're standing still or you're holding your peace, you could be doing way more than if you was fighting. Remember I talked about that bow and arrow concept and meekness in a storm. Sometimes when you resting in the pocket and letting God handle things, it's so much better than you trying to fight when it's not your time. I'm going to shout out my mama on this one because she said, Neen, 2020 came in like a lion for you, but it's leaving like a lamb. People saw such a lightness and airiness in me over the last, I don't know, maybe 2 months. And they like, what has changed in you? You're just so different. And it's like the shackles were broken. We're going to talk more about that as we dig more into this episode. But I just want to say that talking about your peace and talking about hopefulness going into 2021 and welcoming it in is going to be key to how we're going to start off our year right. All right, so let's jump into the first thing. Don't laugh. But I call it hold 'em, fold 'em, and know when to run and walk away. So there was this Geico commercial, like in 2014, it was Kenny Rogers. He's sitting down at a table and he's gambling. And he do this little thing called, you gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run, and then he keep going, but I can't really sing, but you get the point. So we gonna call the first topic of the day, hold 'em, fold 'em, know when to walk and run away. That's my PSA, my public service announcement statement for peace. So people start asking me questions about my personal life. My answer has been, you gotta know when to hold 'em, when to fold 'em, and know when to walk away. And sometimes, darn it, you got to run. This one's heavy because discernment is key to knowing when to hold, when to fold, and when to walk or run away. Isaiah 54:17 says, no weapons formed against me shall prosper. Let me tell you some things. I talked about in the vulnerability episode about enemies and haters and weapons. Let me tell you, recently, probably the last 4 months, listen, I'm going to do my little thing. Listen, Linda, listen. The weapons was being formed. Okay, but they did not prosper. I tell you also that I have been working on myself and working on trusting God and walking with God because, listen, when I tell you the weapons, the snakes, the endangerment, like I talked about the giraffe, it was out there. And I mean, some of the stuff I was just like, woo, what? You coming for me and I didn't sin for you? Because my old self, that's when you got to die to your flesh. I had to die to some of that flesh. And so I spoke on one of the episodes about knowing when to be humble when you don't want to be, knowing when not to seek revenge when you want to do it, and knowing when to let God just handle the thing. And so hold 'em, fold 'em, and know when to run, walk away comes from knowing that the storms are going to come. The enemies are out there. The snakes is out there. The haters are out there. Jealousy's out there. But don't let that interrupt or stop your hustle. That's what we talked about with as an intentional queen thinker. Don't let them distractions hinder you from what you're trying to do or what God wants you to do. Because really for me, this podcast is more for what God wants me to do to empower other women. And I didn't even really know, like I said, Kings was listening, but shout out to those Kings that are supporting me as well, because you know what? a woman wants a strong king. So therefore, sometimes in order for you to know what type of queen they want, they got to go listen to the queen. So them kings will be leveled up for you. So shout out to them because listen, we trying to create a movement, like I said. We talked about dealing with not having distractions so you can become your full self and for restoration. There was this one picture that I remember, and actually I was on my Instagram feed because, I like to look at other women empowerment and other inspirational things because it just kind of gets me in the mojo of talking to you guys, but also, engaging in other people's movements. And somebody put up a picture, but I remember seeing this picture probably about 3 years ago when I was going through some things. And it was a picture of Jesus. And he was holding a big bear behind, like a teddy bear behind his back. And the little girl was in front of him with a little bear. And she's holding the bear so tight, like, God, don't take my bear. I love this bear. Don't know you can't have it. And he like, baby girl, give it to me. Give it to me. And he's got this big bear. She can't see the big bear, but she's just trying to be a good steward of her stuff, and she like, no, I don't want to let it go. And he like, nah, I got something better for you. So I say that to say, when you holding and you folding and you know when to walk away, sometimes you holding on to something that you need to fold and give it to God. And that's what I talk about in Meekness in the Storm, about you got to give it to God. And so I held on to my peace and I folded toxic relationships, toxic things that I wasn't doing for myself. Like I wasn't eating right, eating bad food, getting fluffy out in the streets. Like, listen, I had to change that. My thyroid was a mess. Like I had to start folding some things, so I could hold on to my peace. I had to go find myself, and I call it the wilderness because when it's out there, it's a little lonely, right? You got to use your instincts when you're out there and kind of figure out who's for you, who's not for you, are you a giraffe and where's your vision? And, you're just trying to find yourself. So that picture of Jesus with the bear, it reminds me of another sermon I was listening to when they said God sees around the corner, but you only can see to the corner. Okay, this is provision, meaning he has vision. That's why I keep speaking that word into your spirit about vision. God says, okay, I see over the hill, Janine, but you only can see to the hill. So when I was holding things like peace, but folding certain relationships and certain situations in my life, I was holding on to them. He was like, fold them and give them to me. Let me handle that. Why are you trying to do all this? Remember I talked about in the last episode about you got to get that dust off your shoulder. You got to hold your peace. So you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. And like I said, sometimes you got to run. Isaiah 61 verse 7 and 8 talks about in the Bible, God's going to give you back double for your trouble. Some of you ladies out there is going through way more. You know what I mean? I'm not comparing my storms to your storms, like I said, but I mean, when I was listening to some of the feedback, even at the women's night, I was like, wow, this woman is going through some things. And so what God says is, you know what, lady, you know what, woman, you know what, queen, I'm going to give you double for your trouble. So you may have all this bad juju and you feel like, oh my God, it's just the worst. But then God said, guess what? I'm going to bless you for double for your trouble. But I'm also going to handle the business. I don't need you to be a vindicator. I don't need you to go out there in the streets and do anything. You just need to sit in the pocket and hold your peace. So those ladies know your time is coming where your cup will run back over. When you know what God say about you and his vision, you good, because you got to go back and figure out what God say about you, because that helps you cut out the clutter. Remember, good seeds and bad seeds. It's all about feeding your mind and putting the armor of God on, but more so putting that helmet on when you out there fighting. I prayed this one word, but I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. I prayed for discernment, and discernment, that's a heavy word. I was even talking to my brother probably a few months ago, and I was praying for patience. And he said, you know what, when you keep praying for patience, God's going to keep throwing things in your life to make you be patient, because you said that's what you want to do. So he's going to keep giving you tests to see if you can do it. So I'm going to relate that to the same thing with discernment. I prayed for discernment in order steps. And so let's just say he kept testing me, talking about God. He kept testing me out here about it. But I was a little baffled. Well, really, we won't be candid. I was real shocked what I was finding out in discernment, because I prayed to know all the negative things that I needed to know with certain situations that was happening around me. And should I hold on to them or should I fold them? And he was very clear to me that he said, Janine, you got to fold. And I said, no, 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 Linda. No, I don't fold. I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold on to this. Cause I done made I done made some sacrifices, but I also had made a stance because people know I'm loyal. And when you loyal to a situation and you trust another situation and you trying to respect the situation, I'm one, I don't like to fail. So I was like, nah, that's not what you're telling me. Going back to the picture of God with the little bear versus the big bear. So when I handed up the little bear, God said, here's the big bear. And for me right now, the big bear is peace, because I already know walking into 21, it's going to be that year for me. There's a song by Hezekiah Walker called God Favor Me. And if you listen to the lyrics, it can really help motivate you. Add that to my worship playlist. Maya Angelou has a key phrase that, I think is real key right now. People show you who they are. You need to believe them. When they show you, believe it. I'm out here trying to give people benefits of the doubt, trying to say, no, that's where that discernment thing come on in, okay? And so what I learned quickly is you will be at risk for being in danger. So catch that T right there. Make sure that you know and you believe what them people are showing you. Second thing we're going to talk about, because I don't want this episode to go too long. And if it goes too long, I just break it up into two. But I feel like you need to hear this message as we wrapping up. Second thing we're going to dig into today is peace. Just talking about it, like changing your mindset, the giraffe vision and the purpose. Do you have patience? Is it endurance? We talked about that running. Creating gates and not walls. Last episode, I touched a little bit on it, but I'm going to try to dig a little deeper here. Last episode, I talked about creating gates and not walls. And so what that means is when I used to get offended or people would piss me off, or I'm like, I'm through with you because you can acted a fool, I put a wall up. And so then I was blocking out good people too, because I was putting out the bad situation or the bad vibes, because I don't want to just call it people, because sometimes it's just bad vibes. It's just bad environments, or, it could be toxic everything, your food, your diet, your activities, it doesn't have to be people. So I just want that to be clear about when I'm talking about walls. But you build up offenses, right? And so you got to create gates, because gates allow you to let good stuff in and release the bad stuff. And don't really get in the habit of causing blame, like it's their fault or it's this, because you got to own your role in it. And remember, everything that happens to you, it's a lesson. It's a lesson of what you're not going to do, what you are going to do, what you might have to modify. You got to create healthy boundaries. And sometimes a boundary for me is peace, hold them, fold them, walk away. I'm holding on to my peace out here. Like I'm telling you, I'm walking into this holiday season in the most peaceful state I've been in about 6 years. And I'm out here like, yes, Lord, thank you. It's peaceful. It's COVID, but it's peaceful and I'm alive and I'm healthy and my family good. So like it's all on the little things right now that I keep telling people. And I talked about that in the Thanksgiving episode. You got to avoid your triggers and distractions. Some things is just going to trigger you. And so then what you're doing is you losing your peace. You're not holding on to it because it's a trigger. So got to be mindful of it. I actually was reading my Joyce Meyer devotional about trusting God. And that was my thing of the day. Knowing what keeps your peace. So I said, oh, it's right on point with my message today, because, triggers and distractions can throw you off of your hustle. Brush them shoulders off of the dirt. Decrease your offenses. I tell people, bless them. When I feel the energy coming, I don't got time for the negative vibes. I just be like, bless them, forgive them. Because guess what? When you holding on to all the resentment and the bitterness, all that's doing is hurting you. That's like taking your own poison. So I'm not trying to die out here in these streets. So therefore, I'm just going to bless them and forgive them, because I want to keep taking healing syrup, okay, instead of dying syrup, because I'm up here holding on to toxic stuff. It's not good for you, right? Calmness is mastery. It leads to ultimate power. James Allen said that in that book, as a man think of, but I called it my episode of As Intentional Queen Think Of. But calmness is mastery. It leads to ultimate power. Controlling yourself, your emotions, your strength, sowing those good seeds, especially in your mind, is like a trained muscle. It's so many people dying or being at home alone right now with COVID, not having COVID, but it's COVID season. So they're not able to be around people. They're in their homes alone and they're missing people. And so their mind, the devil likes to get you when you're out in the wilderness. The devil likes to get you when you're alone and put all that negative stuff in you. And then you start changing your lens. So we out here trying to create a better lens for you. Get that goggle, get that fog off your goggles. And we just trying to make you see things a little bit different, changing your mindset. There's the song called Defender. That's the name of the song, Defender. And I told you I put that one on my list along with Surrounded. This is how I fight my battles. But Defender, I played that song over and over and over again. But the key words that it kept saying in there is stand still, bow down, and worship. God's got it. It's your mindset. It put me in such a peace and meditation type mindset. I love that. The past episode, I talked about Tyler Perry with praying and maintaining. That's another way to get to your peace. You pray about it, right? You worship about it, and you just maintain, and you just keep going higher, and you pray and you maintain. I was just reading a little caption on a social media site about Tyler Perry and him with his past relationship that just broke up. And he said, you got to see people in all seasons. So if you've been a married folk like I have been in my past, I'm now divorced, but it's one of those classic books you got to keep in the arsenal about the love languages and also about the seasons of marriage. And it can go for any relationship. I feel like it doesn't really need to go about marriage, but he talked about you got to know when you in a relationship with somebody, whether it's a friend, a married situation or whatever, you got to know how they deal with everything in every season, because when it is sunny and it's summer and it's spring, yeah, it's blissful. But darn it, when you in the fall and the winter, and sometimes the fall and winter don't be a couple months, be a couple years, you got to see how they function out there, because you be all distorted about what you think. And when he said that, I said, yes, I got to tell people about that. We got to put that on the podcast. So make sure you know love languages, but you also got to know the people in your circle, your village, how they deal with stuff on all seasons, okay? Because it's not going to always be summer and spring. And you can see with COVID, it's been a lot of darn fall and winter. So how are people coping? How are things happening? So you make sure that you can hold your peace. I'm going to talk quickly about hope, and then I'm going to just close this on out because we're going to see you guys in 2021. So let's close it on out. So hope for the future. 2021, I'm praying for everybody. It's going to be a better year. You got to decide to be happy. Remember, I said happiness and restoration is a journey. So it's a decision that you're going to have to continuously make and make and make. I was watching Sarah Jakes Roberts. She did a women's night empowerment type thing, but they did it online probably like a month or so ago. And they disclosed this song during the worship part called Done, Done. So go out there and look at it on YouTube. But I thought it was awesome because it says it's sealed. God has taken care of it. Move onward. Let go of the past. It is done. So it is written. And listen, I thought that song was awesome because shackles was broken for me. It was pretty much like God has said to me, Janine, it is done. It is done. Baby girl, it's done. And it took care of it. Showed up, showed out, it's done. And so you have to not lean on your own understanding. That's Proverbs chapter 3, 5-6. So you just got to trust God with all your heart. And remember that things are happening for you, not necessarily to you. And it's normally for the greater good of God. So for me, when I was going through some of them worst storms, I was like, God, why is this happening to me? And my village had to say to me, Janine, it's not happening to you, girl. It's happening for you. And so now I can embrace that statement. But if you talk to me back a while ago, I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Your perspective is so important, how you see things. This is what I'm talking about, that provision. God see around the corner. God see over the hill. You only seeing glimpses, okay? So your perspective of what's going on in your life is so important, about your lessons, about moving onward. What is your reality? Let's make your lens accurate. Let's get that fog off your goggles. You got to be persistent and consistent for hoping for good things, okay? You want to show up with intent. That's why this is called Intentional Queen. You want to show up with the intent on purpose that you're going to be hopeful and you're going to walk by faith and not by sight. And you're going to pray about ordered steps and you're going to stay positive and have that good mindset because your mind is like a garden. You want to continue to sow good seeds. So we're going to wrap up calling this to action, that you're going to hold your peace. You're going to renew your mind. You're going to master calmness because it's the key to self-control. Your vision for 2020, 21. I said that a lot of 20s. The vision for 2021 is going to be great. Your goals that you started setting, your vision boards, you know what you want to do. Let's start moving forward to it. Personally, for me, I'm planning for new things for an intentional queen journey. I got some interviews coming up. I'm making things more engaging for people, so I'm working on that. It's endurance, it's patience, it's self-love, it's self-worth. You're creating healthy boundaries. You stop making walls and you making gates, and you doing your work, because we're going to close out 2020 with a great 2021 start. The references I used here tonight was As a Man Think Of with James Allen. I referred back for you guys to look at some of my past episodes on the podcast. Songs like Defender, God Favored Me, that song Done by the Sarah Jakes Roberts Church. Kenny Rogers, You Gotta Know When to Hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. I know y'all in the car doing it. So anyway, that's my PSA statement. And then making sure that Bible verse, the key one you want to get behind you, is Exodus 14:14, having that ultimate peace. So continue to level up your IQ to a better you. Stay engaged in the intentional queen movement. I want to thank all my fellow intentional queens and kings. See you at the next episode in the new year. Stay tuned every 2 weeks for new episodes, and follow me on Instagram at Intentional Queen Journey. You can email me at intentionalqueenjourney.com, or you can go to my specific email, which is intentionalqueenjourney@gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe, follow on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, plus share with your friends. And for more details, go to the podcast notes or the website. Check me out below. Happy holidays, guys.